What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Deep South EDC. Today we're live. I was just going through the new X app or whatever, and I saw a news story from a police shooting here in New Orleans, and so that just kind of got me thinking about this book by an internet friend, Paul Glasco of Legally Armed America, and I think everybody should read it. So I'll be reading a little bit of it to you because I think it's a good book and it has a lot of great information in there. First, I just want to thank everybody who's watching for watching, and any of my subscribers, thanks for subscribing. And if you follow me on Rumble and anywhere else, I just want to say thanks. And thank you to anyone who watched my last video. It was all about how poorly the NOPD, the police here in New Orleans, is right now, or is how poorly the police is structured right now. There's a serious problem with crime, and there's a serious problem with not having enough police. We have about half as many police officers as there should be, and the last video we went over an officer had his last day, so he was answering people's questions on Reddit. So we went over that. It was very mind-blowing. It was very insightful, and we learned a lot. So if you are a citizen of New Orleans, I highly recommend you watch that. And if you don't live in New Orleans and you just want to hear some crazy stuff, check that out. Before I go on, I just want to ask everybody to hit that thumbs up button, and if you like any of my videos, please recommend me to your friends and family, or share my videos. I'm going to be doing a short video after we get off of this about something really cool. It's a little bit different. It's not a knife or anything, but it is definitely an everyday carry. I wouldn't say essential, but something cool to have. So we'll be checking that out. Last thing, my GoPro recently broke. So I'm a poor, so I hate doing this, asking other people, but I like to get it replaced so I can make some high quality content for you guys. So consider donating $1 or anything you can afford, if you can afford it. If you can't, no pressure, to my Cashapp. And yeah, it's $ DeepSouthEdc, and it's nice and easy. Hate asking, but I'd highly appreciate it. All right, so How to Make a Monster and Why No One Cares, by Paul Glasco. A sensible look at Rampage killers. All right. How to Make a Monster and Why No One Cares. Stay awesome. Got mine signed. I'm not going to read too much, but I just want to give you guys a taste. Introduction. It's safe to say that the majority of all broadcast, print, and online media work in lockstep with many well-funded anti-gun organizations in the United States. These two groups have shared the same left-leaning political views, and disdain for the Second Amendment for as long as I can remember. Manufacturing and spreading misinformation about firearms and the firearm industry has also become big business in the United States. Excuse me. Michael Bloomberg donated $38 million of his own money as part of Everytown for Gun Safety's combined $106 million annual cash haul in 2018. And that's just one of the many well-funded anti-gun groups that operate in America. With this kind of influence, it's no surprise that the messaging and nomenclature used to discuss and report on any topic that involves a firearm is purposely misleading, disingenuous at best. Already in that first paragraph of the introduction, Paul's making great points here. So when the paid-for-media reports on a murder of multiple people by a single killer who happens to choose a firearm to end people's lives, it's common and accepted now to use the phrase mass shooting and mass shooter when describing it. This choice of words is not accidental or by chance. This choice of words is meant to attach just as much negative press and stigma to the item chosen by the killer to kill as it does to the killer himself. As many times people many times people are quicker to ask what kind of gun was used or how it was acquired rather than who the killer is and why he did it. This is a huge victory for the propaganda arm of the anti-gun enterprise. I don't know why I quoted that. He put it in italics. That's right. I call it the anti-gun enterprise. Now he quoted it. Because the anti-gun movement is a very popular and lucrative business to be in. It is a big-time industry and enterprise. That $106 million that Everytown raked in 2018 went to paying massive salaries, printing t-shirts and signs, and funding travel to places all over the country to lobby against the Second Amendment. If you're wondering how that stacks up against other businesses, the average business in the United States has earnings of $4.9 million per year. Wow. If I was not a principled person, I'd consider starting an anti-gun organization myself. To be clear, the anti-gun enterprise does a fabulous job of fundraising, chanting slogans that rhyme, and printing t-shirts and signs. But all that money and all those efforts cannot and will not and have never had any kind of effect on reducing the amount of rampage killers who choose guns to carry out their crimes. They speak of reducing gun violence, but make no effort to actually do it. And he's absolutely right there. Banning guns is not the answer. Just find another way. But what are the pro-Second Amendment people doing to reduce gun violence? Well, they have their hands full fighting off anti-gun enterprises' efforts, that's for sure. They also commit a ton of resources to firearm education and programming, as well as true gun safety initiatives. For example, the National Shooting Sports Foundation's Project Child Safe program partnered with more than 15,000 law enforcement agencies and community partners across the country to distribute free firearm safety kits that include gun locks for safe storage. This also helps to contribute to more than 100 million locking devices provided by the firearm industry to gun owners free of charge. This is what real gun safety looks like. Hey, cuz. All right, we got GE Outdoors checking in, just reading some books. But if the anti-gun enterprises committed their resources to restricting Second Amendment rights, and the pro-gun organizations are committing their resources to promoting Second Amendment rights, who is trying to determine how we reduce the desire for humans to take the lives of other humans? I will if no one else will. Back in the 1990s and early 2000s, I worked for a Fortune 500 company and was in charge of hundreds of field employees as well as billing-related staff. While 90% of our upper management meetings and workshops were a complete waste of time, there were some that I learned from. One particular concept that was genius was equally simple. When faced with a problem, determine the root cause of it. This book is in no way attempting to remove accountability for the heinous crimes against humanity that the subjects of these killings have committed. I come from a strict upbringing where we all are to be held accountable for our own actions. If there was one decision I made along the way in life that could have prevented a serious issue I chose wrong, that's on me. The goal with my book is to point out the things that we as all brothers and sisters of our fellow man can look to our impossible help. The goal with this book is to point out the things that we as brothers and sisters of our fellow man can look out for and possibly help future potential subjects and victims. But we as gun rights advocates are constantly mocked by the anti-gun enterprise when we pray for murder victims as if our thoughts and prayers are somehow superficial. Supposedly, in their eyes, we don't care because we aren't willing to ban inanimate objects when a madman makes a conscious effort to kill other people. Yet the enterprise hijacks the phrase gun safety while teaching and promoting absolutely zero gun safety while simply trying to limit constitutional rights and banning guns. Where are their efforts to accurately identify the trigger of rampage killings? What research have they done to figure out what causes humans to initiate these events? Do they even care? I care, and that's why I've written this book. So that's a hell of an introduction. The first chapter is chapter 1, The Mind of a Rampage Killer. I'll just read you the first part. The FBI doesn't define mass shooting as a specific term, but it does define a mass murder as someone who kills 4 or more people in one location, and it doesn't necessarily have to be with a firearm. Although there's no official definition, it does seem as though the most commonly used definition of a mass shooting is a single incident in which 4 or more people are shot or killed. Harvard professor David Hemingway once said, quote, "So there's no accepted definition of a mass shooting. There are many, many different definitions of what a mass shooting is," end quote. Clearly, political party, business model, and ideology are the biggest reason why there isn't a common word for unspeakable crimes like this. And by various groups using different yet accepted definitions for individuals who attack large groups of people, everyone pretty much has an excuse to deliver bad information since none of the definitions are universally agreed upon. So everyone else is right and everyone else is wrong, depending on who's doing the reporting. While much is made of mass shootings in today's world of immediately available news, they are actually very rare and only account for 0.05% of firearm-related deaths per year in the United States. I know, judging by the amount of attention these events receive from the media and politicians, you'd think it was a whirlwind epidemic, but it's not. So why aren't other attackers and murderers reported by the media and by politicians identified by the item the perpetrator used to attack the victims with? When there's a murder with a knife, 1,591 murders with a knife in 2017, why don't they call it a knife death? When a person drives into a crowd of people with a moving truck, 917 in 2017, why don't they call it a mass runover? I think we all agree that firearms are a uniquely polarizing topic, and any negative press the media and politicians can generate surrounding them is a small victory they can claim. By overemploying Orwellian doublespeak when referring to attacks where evil people happen to choose a gun to attack with, these groups have created a subliminally negative image of firearms in the mind of the general public. To clear up the deceptive messaging by the media and politicians, and to be as transparent and as forward as possible so that we can focus on the true root cause of the problem, I refer to these murderers as rampage killers in this book. So Paul says some pretty interesting stuff here that is all true. It's all a propaganda game, and it's all a tool to be used to emotionally get people charged up about the topic. Anytime I try to have a conversation, and I'm sure it's the same with a lot of you guys about gun rights or the Second Amendment, it's people get emotional about it and they don't give any logic thought. It's a lot. No one should have the guns. And you can kind of see where they're coming from. Without guns, there'd be no shootings. But what did we do before we had guns? Swords and shit. So even where places where they have serious gun bans, like England, they still have these mass killing events, but these rampage killers choose other items like knives, swords. There was one guy who was stopped in England. I don't remember the specifics. He might have been. They have their prison system set up weird, so I think he was like on day release or something, and something happened where he ended up being stopped by someone wielding a narwhal tusk, like a big fucking tusk. So that's pretty crazy. And then you have places like Illinois and California and New York, these places that have really, really, really strict gun laws that have the worst gun violence. And it's crazy. Those places should be the model of no gun violence, but in fact, they're the opposite. So what they're trying to do is use these rampage killings to sway the public opinion in favor of getting rid of your Second Amendment right, which is really there to protect the people against tyrannical governments, foreign or domestic. So that's the only thing stopping a tyrannical takeover of the United States. And that's what the Second Amendment is for. It's not for hunting or anything else like that. And people forget that and they'll try to argue that with you, but that's not what it's for. You can just read it. It's right there. I recently had, I've been having fun on the social media lately. Somebody responded to one of my comments that I put on a video where somebody said, I'm pro Second Amendment, but started giving reasons why he wasn't pro Second Amendment. So my comment was, all I heard was, I'm not pro Second Amendment. And somebody commented on my post about how, or commented on my comment about how, well, we can still regulate people, charge them this much money, not let them have a gun until they pay this much money, or prove that they're proficient with firearms. Once you prove you're proficient with firearms, then you can be allowed to buy one, but the guns have to be at some outrageous price. So I simply said, rights don't require training, essentially. You don't need to be trained to practice a right. And the reply I got back was like, oh, you just want free guns and you never answered my question. So I answered, I highly recommend people get training if they want to become proficient with a firearm, but it's not required to exercise a right. I don't want free guns. However, that would be nice, Who wouldn't want free guns? But the third point I made is the right to self-defense should not just be reserved for the wealthy. You shouldn't have to be wealthy. You shouldn't have to be rich. You shouldn't have to pay all this money and jump through all these hoops to want to defend yourself. And then I asked him, tell me, which fees do you pay to practice your First Amendment right? Or any other right for that matter? I pretty much got a non-answer back, so I just stopped pursuing that. But tell me, what other rights? I mean, I know there's some crazy stuff going on with this current presidential administration and these big tech corporations with the censorship, but backdoor First Amendment violations there. But what other rights do you have to pay for? You know, what other rights do you need to be? Do you need to prove you know how to practice before you can practice them? So that whole notion and that whole concept is a non-argument. And, you know, he accused me of not answering his questions, and then I did answer his questions, but this person never answered my questions. So I'll ask you guys, leave that in the comments or the chat or whatever. You guys pay to practice your First Amendment right or your Third Amendment right? Do you pay to not have soldiers or police live in your home? I mean, come on. Or your Fourth or Fifth Amendment right? The notion is ridiculous. I do encourage everybody to get training and seek training and become proficient with the weapons and tools that you use. Or hope not to use, but you should know how to use. So anyway, that kind of got me going, and this book by Paul is really good, so y'all should check him out. Do I got any news? No, but I've been, I wouldn't say trolling the mayor on Twitter, or X as it's called now, but I've been letting her know that she's been doing a real shit job. So I've also posted the latest video link there, so hopefully I got some hits from there. It hasn't been doing as well as my other videos. Well, there aren't any knives in it, so that kind of makes sense. But anyway, guys, thanks for listening to me ramble. Thanks for listening to me shittily read out of this book, because I ain't a good reader, I guess. Yeah, anyway, guys, like I said, share my stuff, and yeah, hit that like button, hit that thumbs up button. Follow me everywhere. Sometimes I post funny memes on Instagram. You know, I don't really know how to work the Facebook, so I just cross-post all the Instagram stuff there. Find me on Minds. Minds is fun. Minds.com. And yeah, you can find me on X at DeepSouthEdc. And follow me on Rumble. Rumble's pretty cool. Anyway, guys, I'll show you what I'm carrying today. Got the Glock 19. Got that Glock 17 reload. So we got +2 on the refill, you know what I mean? And got that in the Vetter Light Tuck. Time for a new one. Anyway, guys, remember to stay well regulated. Make sure you practice all of your amendments.